The palace of Vorinth had been silent for 1,000 cycles. The banners of the royal house hung motionless in the thin violet air, and the vast crystal halls that once pulsed with laughter now echoed only with the low hum of the planetary core beneath. King Thalrin of the Soryth dominion sat alone upon his throne of obsidian and light. His 4 eyes, once the color of stormfire, had dimmed with grief. He had ruled over 13 worlds, conquered 3 empires, and united races that had once sworn eternal enmity. Yet for all his victories, there was one battle he had lost, the battle for his daughter's life. Princess Ilera, his only child, his heir, had vanished in the last days of the border wars. Her ship, the Celestial Thorn, had gone down in the human sector, near a planet they called Earth. No signal had ever returned. The wreckage was never found. For 2 decades, the king's heart had been a hollow star. He had built monuments, waged wars, and commissioned every scout fleet to search the void, but nothing ever returned but silence. Even his advisors had stopped speaking her name aloud. Until one day, a transmission broke that silence. It came from the outer rim, an old frequency, half broken, patched together through human channels. It carried only one sentence. Father, I'm coming home. Middle, the return from the forgotten world. The king stood at the landing platform, surrounded by the honor guard. His breath trembled in the cold air as the ship descended. A human design, boxy and inelegant, painted in white and silver. The hatch hissed open. A figure stepped out first, a man. Human. Dressed not in armor, but in simple clothing. His expression calm, his eyes steady. The guards stiffened, ready to strike, but the king raised his hand. Then, behind the human, came a silhouette he thought he would never see again. Lara. Her silver hair shimmered in the light of her homeworld's twin suns. Her skin, once smooth violet, was marked with faint scars. Her once golden royal crest now bore a streak of human ink. And her eyes, those ancient eyes that mirrored his own, carried something deeper now, humanity. Father, she said softly, stepping forward. The king stumbled from his throne dais, his breath catching. For a long moment no words came. Then, against all the weight of his crown, he took a step forward and reached for her hand. You live, he whispered, voice cracking with disbelief. You live, my starfire. Tears glimmered on her cheeks. I live, father, but not as I once was. His gaze shifted sharply to the man standing quietly beside her. And who, he growled, is this? The human bowed, unarmed, his voice calm. My name is Daniel Rhodes. I served with the planetary relief forces that found her crash site 20 years ago. The king's voice darkened. And why do you come before me now? As her captor, her keeper, or her corrupter? Ilera stepped forward protectively, her tone firm. He is none of those things. He is the one who saved me, when no one else could. The court gasped. The king froze, struggling to reconcile the image of his daughter as both warrior and survivor. His heart wanted to rejoice, but his pride, the pride of 1,000 worlds, burned with suspicion. He dismissed the guards. The chamber fell silent. Tell me, he said at last, staring into the human's eyes. What did you do that my armies could not? Daniel's gaze did not waver. I didn't try to conquer death. I learned to live with it. The story of Earth. Over the next hours, Daniel told the story. When Ilera's ship crashed on Earth, she had been mortally wounded. Her symbiotic armor had fused into her body. No alien medicine could have saved her. But Daniel, then a medical researcher in an experimental program, had refused to let her die. He studied her biology, adapted her healing systems with Earth nanotech, and spent years learning how to balance her alien physiology with human medical science. It was not easy. She nearly died dozens of times. Governments tried to take her. Scientists wanted to dissect her. He fled with her into the wilderness, hiding from both worlds. In the end, Ilara had lived, not because of technology but because of care. Because one human refused to see her as a curiosity. When she could walk again, she had asked him a question. "Why did you save me?" And he had answered, "Because you looked at me like I wasn't small." That was when she realized that the species her father had dismissed as primitive possessed something no empire had ever understood: empathy. She stayed on Earth, learning their ways, their music, their fragile courage. And when the stars finally called again, she did not return alone. The clash of empires and hearts. The king listened in silence. For the first time in decades, his composure cracked. He could not decide what hurt more, that his daughter had suffered among the primitives, or that she had chosen to remain among them. "So," the king said finally, "you bring me a story of suffering and shame, and call it salvation?" Ilara's eyes flashed. "No. I bring you the truth, that your empire's greatness is hollow without compassion. That this man, who has never known our worlds, showed me more honor than any royal ever did." The king rose, voice trembling with fury. "You would dare compare him, a creature of dust and decay, to the legacy of Soryth?" "Yes," she said softly. "Because he earned his honor. You only inherited yours." A silence fell so heavy it could have cracked the stars. Daniel stepped forward, his voice low but unwavering. "Your Majesty, I know I don't belong here, but your daughter does. I didn't come to take her from you. I came to bring her home." The king's breath caught. The human's tone was not arrogant nor submissive. It was steady, resolute, like the sound of a mountain against the storm. It reminded him of himself long ago. "Do you love her?" the king asked suddenly. Daniel's eyes met Ilara's. "I do. But it's not mine to claim. Her freedom is her own." The king turned to his daughter. "And you, Ilara, what do you want?" She smiled faintly. "I want to live in both worlds. To be the bridge between them. To teach you what I learned. And show them what we once were." Her words hung like sunlight through a storm. And slowly, painfully, something in the king's chest began to thaw. The revelation of the lost war. But peace never comes easily. As the reunion spread across the system, the rival empires took notice. Rumors spread that the Soryth princess had been corrupted by a human. The Eric's Dominion, longtime enemies of the Soryth, saw an opportunity to strike, claiming the king's bloodline was tainted. An armada of 100 warships crossed the border within a week. The palace trembled with the shock waves of the first bombardment. The king's generals urged him to flee. The council demanded he surrender his daughter to the enemy as proof of loyalty. But Ilara stepped forward in the war chamber. "If they call me corrupted," she said, "then I will show them what it means to be human." Daniel stood beside her, unarmed. "And I'll stand with you." Together they led the defense, not with overwhelming force, but with strategy and heart. Ilara used earthborn tactics Daniel had taught her. Decoy drones, guerrilla ambushes, electromagnetic nets. The Eric's fleet, used to predictable Soryth formations, fell into chaos. In 3 days the invasion faltered. In 5 it retreated entirely. The cost was great, but the victory was undeniable. The galaxy had seen what the king's daughter and a single human could achieve together. When the last enemy ship fled into the void, the king stood before the two of them, pride glistening through tears. You fought not as Soryth or human, he said, but as one heart. Perhaps that is the power I have feared all along, ending the bridge between worlds. Months later, the grand hall of Vorinth filled once again, not with mourning but with light. The king stood before the gathered nobles and delegates of neighboring systems. By his side stood Ilara, wearing armor that gleamed with both Soryth crystal and human steel. And beside her Daniel, dressed in the ceremonial attire of both worlds. My people, the king said, voice echoing through the chamber. For too long we believed that strength alone defined us. But strength without compassion is only emptiness. My daughter has shown me that the heart of a single human can rival the power of an empire. He turned to the crowd, eyes burning with newfound conviction. From this day forth, the Soryth Dominion will open its gates to Earth, not as conquerors but as allies. The chamber erupted in astonishment. A new era had begun. Later, in the quiet of the starlit garden, Ilara stood beside Daniel, gazing out at the nebulae that shimmered like painted dreams. You've changed my world, she said softly. Daniel smiled. You changed mine first. She reached out, taking his hand. My father once told me the stars belong to those who claim them. But now I think they belong to those who share them. As the twin suns rose, their light spilled across two figures, alien and human, standing together on the edge of a dawn neither species could have reached alone. And far above, from the balcony, the king watched them. His daughter, his hope, his redemption, and whispered to himself, "She was lost to me once. But she has returned with a piece of the universe I never knew I needed."